Hello, Raiders! I have been seeing a lot of discourse online about expeditions, particularly how the ongoing debate on if the expedition system is enough to keep players engaged in the long term, and if expeditions should even be considered as content for the game. Well, I wouldn't want to see the game have increased requirements to hit the expedition, as that would likely destroy the casual experience keeping up with everyone else. I have a system to propose that I believe could fix a lot of the core issues with the longevity in Arc Raiders. But to be able to introduce the systems and what it would resolve, we would first have to investigate what criticisms have been levied at Arc Raiders gameplay loop. Arc Raiders' current problems, excluding balancing, is that I believe Arc Raiders was designed to have mixed PvP lobbies where the tension is high, but not everyone would shoot or you could talk yourself out of it from Embark's perspective. Despite this, however, it mostly devolves into heavily PvP based lobbies or PvE Care Bear lobbies. This creates a very natural divide in how players experience the game, and it is reflected on how the two different communities react to each other's type of content. Arc Raiders also has difficulties with maintaining a more hardcore interest due to the expedition system being relatively easy to manage once you understand where to find materials, and Embark does not have the resources to pump out content faster than player retention can provide. Many players also find that Trials is not enough to sustain long-term goals and grind, and the game lacks a community incentive to strive towards, despite the lore stating otherwise. There are many other solutions that can fix some of these issues, like balancing, economic changes, Trials rework, and things like that. But I want to focus on a system that I haven't seen proposed often, and see what you guys think about it. This solution would give players a new system to work towards or do when they're done with other goals they have in mind. The idea in question is a factional system. A factional system that allows a player to align with a specific faction of raiders within Speranza and create goals for those factions to work on as a community. Then we can have a situation where communities can foster and promote new ways to play the game. Let's say after you complete a few quests, and get acquainted with the game, or upon completing an expedition and starting fresh, you will be presented with a screen like this one here, giving you the option to join various factions vying for resources in Speranza. Whatever faction you choose should not be publicly disclosed in a match, and possibly could be hidden from your friends list as well, only known to you unless you personally share the information. They will provide some form of in-game incentives to participate and contribute to the overall goals of the faction. There could even be an in-game cutscene that plays based on which faction did better than others, or simply individual faction-based cutscenes based on objectives completed throughout an expedition period. Right now, my working idea involves something simple as materials gathering, like turning in a type of material just to give players something to do, but it could include quests and more. As long as they don't do something like skill tree changes based on factions, because I don't want to see a meta built around which faction you chose. I don't think that would be good for the game, guys. This solution would create a lot of value from what I consider to be very little investment from Embark themselves, an exception to maybe making some cutscenes if they wanted to get people more invested in the lore. Some hypothetical situations could occur from this. Here are 3 hypothetical situations I've been thinking out. Situation 1 would be that Raider A and Raider B would traditionally just PvP and kill each other, but when Raider A downs Raider B, they find out they're both in the same Raider faction and heard that Raider C, not too far away from them, say they were part of a different faction. So they decide to res each other, team up, and go against Raider C for their factional differences. In the second situation, Raider A and Raider B would traditionally only PvP and not kill each other, but because of their factional differences, one of the two decides to engage in PvP, spicing up the traditional Care Bear lobby. And a third hypothetical could be like Raider A and Raider B would typically PvP, but instead find themselves team up so they could bring more materials back for the community goal of their faction, or participate in community goals of the faction together. Let's say it's kill Hornets as a faction this week. These 3 scenarios may have never occurred without the factional system, and while it's not necessary to engage based on the factional system, its simple existence could create unique changes to the current format of the game. Based on what I've laid out so far, these would be the pros of such a system. 1, it would give players a reason to log on once they've completed their expedition weekly. 2, it would build communities around different factional groups online. 3, it would allow potential conflicts with different factions and open in-game interactions between players on which faction they joined, and possible sabotage by engaging in fights or teaming up based on factional choices. These wouldn't be necessary and they wouldn't be public information, but it would be an extra layer to look at. And 4, it would allow for online personalities and personal relationships to be more layered and interesting through what faction they represent. There are some slight concerns that this could bring if it was done improperly though. It's important that they are not in direct competition of each other, as this would create an environment where everyone may choose one specific faction that's considered winning. I think the situations that happened in like PlanetSide and the early days of PlanetSide was plagued with this because one faction was what everyone deemed as cool or winning. So they played that faction the most and had the most influence on the map for a very long time. It may also produce too much toxicity if it's directly competitive. And while we want to create a small amount of increased conflict and friction to promote possibly more PvP from otherwise PvE players and promote more cooperation from generally more PvP-centric players, it may create a raw us versus them in all scenarios, or witch hunts to find out which faction players are and become a toxic environment. This system that I've created is simply meant to create a little more friction and give players incentives to play. There's a lot of ways it could be done wrong, but if done right, it could create a unique layer of gameplay that otherwise remains a stale game. Let me know what you think about these ideas, and if you like what you've seen, please give it a like to encourage more discussion around ways Embark can improve the longevity of the game. That's all from me today. This has been Sky, and I will see you topside.